Those who invaded our Capitol and battled law enforcement for hours were motivated by what President Trump had told them. President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack.
Last night's primetime January 6 hearing started off in dramatic fashion as Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney wasted little time taking several shots at former President Trump during her opening statement. Good morning and welcome to Wake Up America, everyone. It is Friday, June 10th. I'm Allison Maloney.
And I'm Katrina Zish. Here are some of the stories we're following for you this morning. As we just played for you, last night's primetime January 6th hearing debut promised to reveal a lot, and it sure did, but not about the day itself. We're breaking down the biggest takeaways from last night's act of political theater coming up.
Plus, gas prices have set yet another all-time high, climbing another 2 cents overnight. The national average now sitting at $4.99 as you wake up this morning and continues to show no signs of going down.
And the Consumer Price Index for the month of May will be released later this morning. Analysts and economists expecting more of the same, predicting continued inflation, among other troubling statistics.
Hang Mike Pence.
All right. Well, we want to get now to the top story that everybody is talking about. We continue to react to last night's primetime January 6th hearing. Let's welcome back our panel. Joining Katrina and myself this morning is former Deputy Press Secretary at the White House and Newsmax contributor Hogan Gidley and commentary editor for the Washington Times and Newsmax contributor Kelly Sadler and best-selling author and political analyst Mark Halperin. Panel, welcome back. All right. I want to talk about what a lot of people are saying, that this committee basically is creating this false narrative. So Liz Cheney really focused on making it seem like President Trump did nothing to condemn the events that took place on January 6, 2021. But that's just not true. Remember this?
I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country.
All right, Hogan, I want to start with you. Former President Trump put out that statement shortly after January 6th. But if you watched the hearing last night, they attacked President Trump, and it really seemed like this is all political for them.
It is, but I have to say this is such a pattern of the left. How many times does Donald Trump have to condemn something, anything? Regardless of what happened in this country, we were forced to defend it on a daily basis, repeatedly, weeks, months after the occurrence. I mean, the entire live Charlottesville, where the president actually condemned neo-Nazis specifically. They said he never did that. They say he didn't condemn it. The same thing applies here. He said to stop this, to go home in peace in real time. He did it in subsequent days, but that's never enough for the left. However, when it's their side, it doesn't matter to them at all. We see a literal assassination attempt on a Supreme Court justice. We've yet to hear from the president or the vice president, who've had multiple chances to talk to the media about this, multiple chances to condemn it. The protests themselves are illegal by federal law. They're not condemning that either. In fact, they're encouraging it. When you saw cities being burned to the ground, not only do they not condemn it, they basically said it was a rite of passage. Oh, and by the way, we're going to bail out people who are put in jail for destroying people's lives to the tune of more than $2 billion in this country. So spare me the pearl clutching. This was a horrible day in America's history, was January 6th. Those who were involved and committed acts of violence, committed crimes, they should be punished. But let's all relax here, because it's the Democrats 9 times out of 10 who ratchets up the rhetoric and then turns around and pretends like they had nothing to do with these instances that occur subsequent to their comments. It's absolutely ridiculous. The hypocrisy knows no bounds. And quite frankly, I think a lot of the people out there in this country are sick of it.
Yeah, moving on to a slightly different approach or a different take on last night, Kelly. A DNC email popped up. Take a look at what surfaced last night. It was from the DNC. It was an email sent out. It said, take a minute to read this email as tonight's hearings kick off, and then make a donation of $25 to help elect Democrats who will protect our democracy. All right, so was last night, besides political theater, made for primetime special, was it ultimately a fundraising op for Dems?
Well, I mean, absolutely, right? I mean, it's the only thing the Democrats have to talk about. They can't talk about inflation. They can't talk about the stalling economy. They can't talk about the secure southern border. They can't talk about international peace when you have Russia invading Ukraine. They have nothing to run on except to run against Donald Trump. And it's not going to be successful. Imagine, yesterday coming home from work, just the average American filling up their gas tank, costing them $100 to do so, right? Then going into the grocery store and paying more for chicken that night for dinner. Then coming home and turning on the TV and watching this committee. Really? Seriously? Is this what you wanted? The average American is looking at the Democrats and are like, what are you doing to solve my problems? This isn't a problem. This happened over a year ago. It's history. The people who did these crimes and protested are being, they're under arrest. They're in jail here in Washington, D.C., so they're being punished. But we need to have solutions moving forward that benefit us in our everyday lives. And this January 6th committee certainly is not doing that.
Yeah, Mark, to Kelly's point, people are living paycheck to paycheck. Gas prices, $5 a gallon. We got a border crisis. We have people overdosing on fentanyl. We have President Biden's approval rating very, very low. Is this the Democrats' way of trying to deflect everything that's going on? Because this is all they have to hold on to. We've got midterms coming up in 5 months.
Certainly a big part of why they're holding the hearings, and I don't disagree. The political reality doesn't take a holiday during the hearing. Inflation, consumer attitudes, business attitudes, all that right in front of us. And I think by the middle of the day, I think even in a lot of the press that's liberal, will move on to those issues. At the same time, I do find just the absolute dismissiveness of what happened on January 6th. I know Hogan keeps saying, it was a horrible thing. I think there's got to be accountability for what happened across the board of anyone who's accountable. And I think to just move right to inflation after this flawed committee, I say, after they've done what they've done, I think it's just not good for America.
Yeah, but don't say I'm just missing it when I actually, and then in the same sentence say I actually addressed the fact that it was a horrible day. We should get to the bottom of it, but it shouldn't be along partisan lines. We should have Republicans asking questions and bringing up things about the pipe bomber, for example, in front of the RNC and the DNC. We were told that Kamala Harris was at Congress when instead she wasn't. She had to have been over there because her security was over there. There are a lot of questions out there we need answered,
Hogan,
of course. But at the beginning of this segment, but hold on, Mark.
Hold on, Mark, 1 second. Go ahead, Hogan.
At the beginning of this segment, we started with this soundbite from Liz Cheney. Then we went to two graphics. One was gas prices and one was about food and inflation. I guarantee you the people at home were leaned in more concerned and perked up and focused in on the following two graphics, not the first, because the first one really doesn't impact their lives in any way. And while we're talking about this quote unquote insurrection for just a moment, that happened over the course of several hours. Those folks in Congress were voting that later that evening. We're still trying to clean up the $2 billion worth of damage from BLM. We're still having a conversation about inflation, the price of gas and of groceries. Those are things that matter long term. And while any attack on our institutions are important, if we're going to go after the folks on January 6th, we should, because that was a violation of law. Right. But we have to do it universally across the board for those who attack other institutions. But Democrats don't want to do that. It's only about politics. That's my problem with it.
Yeah, Mark, I want to get your quick follow-up, but then we do want to get to Kelly on this as well.
I'll be quick. Hogan, I agree. I think probably with 95% of what you just said. I just also like you to be open to holding President Trump accountable for his role, not his overstated role, but his accurate role that even Kevin McCarthy sees in what happened on January 6th and the events leading up to it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. You can get to Kelly. I'll go back to Mark in a second. Sorry.
All right, Kelly.
No.
Kelly.
How has President Trump not been held accountable? Right? I mean, this has been in the news every single day since he left office. Right? Like every day, the Democrats are using this as a weapon against Donald Trump. Everyone knows that he came out, he condemned the rioting. He was not aware. They're not making the case in this committee that he was aware and planned this quote unquote insurrection because there's no evidence to support that. And the texts that have been shown say that, like, from Don Jr. to Mark Meadows to like, we got to put a stop to this. The president came out, made a statement. And so what more do you want from him? Yeah. I just don't understand.
Okay, Hogan, we got 10 seconds left.
The parallels of simultaneously saying Donald Trump caused this when he said go peacefully protest versus Chuck Schumer, who said you're going to reap the whirlwind when there are no political ramifications for a Supreme Court justice. Only removal by impeachment, retirement, or death leaves a lot of questions, I think, to most of Americans out there.
And I think everyone will agree that what happened on January 6th was horrible. We want to get to the bottom of it, but there's also a lot of things going on right now that the Democrats are not addressing. Panel, we're going to talk about this again later on today. We appreciate it. We'll see you back in the next hour.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.